Want to save on taxes and set your kids up for financial success? Turns out paying your kids from your business could be one of the smartest financial moves you make this year. It's legal, it's strategic, and yes, it can be tax-free, but only if you do it right. And no, I don't mean turning your kids into little workhorses. If you've seen this new docuseries on the dark side of kidfluencing, you know what I'm talking about. That is not what we're doing here. The right way to hire your kids is all about age-appropriate work, valuable lessons, and smart tax strategy, not about exploiting your kids for profit. So if you're watching this in hopes that I'm going to tell you how to do that, this is not the video for you. But if you want to learn how to actually be able to do this in an ethical way that also can help you from a tax perspective and set your kids up for success, this is the place to be. Now, if you don't know me, hi, I'm Jamie Trull, CPA and financial literacy coach. And on this channel, I love to give you all the tools and information you need to stay informed, organized, and profitable in your business finances. So if you like this content, make sure to like and subscribe. Now, maybe you've heard about the strategy of hiring your kids. However, you want to know a little bit more about it and make sure that it is on the up and up. And that's what we're going to talk about here. Nobody wants to get in trouble with the IRS or the Department of Labor, so we're going to talk through the ways to do it right and why it can actually be a great thing for you and your kid. Now, stick around to the end because I'm going to tell you about one smart move you can make with the money that you pay your kid that can help set them up for life. So make sure to stick around for that. So first of all, why would you want to pay your kid through your business? Can't you just pay them an allowance? Is there a reason to actually do this a little bit more officially? And the answer is yes, there are several different reasons that this can be beneficial. As long as they're doing legitimate work, you can pay them a reasonable wage, and that is a wage that can actually be deducted by your business. Now, just like any other business expense, when you deduct something for tax purposes, that reduces your taxable income. So it's going to reduce the taxes that you, as the business owner, would be paying. Now, you might be wondering, well, yeah, but isn't my kid just going to have to pay those taxes? And the answer is maybe, but probably not. And that is because as long as the child is making under $15,000 a year, which is the standard deduction in 2025, then they will not have any income taxes on the amount that you're paying them. And again, if you set it up correctly, they may not have any payroll taxes either. So what you're essentially doing is shifting income from a higher tax bracket, i.e. your tax bracket, to a lower tax bracket, i.e. your child's tax bracket. And even more than that, in the process of this, you're also able to instill lifelong lessons of hard work, give them skills that they can use later in life, and give them an opportunity to manage their own money. And here's the other great thing about this. Let's say you pay your kids up to that $15,000, which again is the maximum before any income tax would need to be paid, and you are paying them that full amount for the year. Now, you as the parent can decide what happens to that money. How is it managed? So once it goes into your kid's bank account, you can let them have access to it and manage it, or you could use it to pay for things like their schooling or even their camps or the expensive dance they're a part of. All of that can be paid out of their funds legally. You can use it to pay for anything that is specifically for them. So in the cases of your children being younger, that might be something where you would be managing the money and paying those bills that you already were going to be paying, but now you get to pay it with tax-free money. Now, before you go handing your kids some money and deducting it from your business, let's talk about a few things related to compliance, because you can do this wrong and actually either miss out on tax breaks or put yourself in hot water from a Department of Labor or IRS standpoint, which we do not want. So if you want to keep it legal, here is what the IRS is going to require. It must be real work. You can't just pay your kids some money and say they did work if they didn't actually work. And you do need to keep records of that work. What did they do? How long did they work? What type of project were they working on? If it was project-based, what were the days that they worked? You need to actually be tracking that. And just like you would any other employee, paying them based on the work they actually did in your business. So the age-appropriate tasks are going to depend on the age of your child, but they could be things like administrative work, filing work, right? The old stuffing of envelopes. I don't know that anybody does that anymore. Or they could be things like if you're using their images on social media or YouTube or anything like that for your business, you could pay them as a model or an actress. Now, once again, I want to stop and be super duper clear here. This is not about making your 7-year-old your full-time assistant, and it's not about making your kids hustle for the camera 18 hours a day. This is about true developmentally appropriate work that is going to help them build skills, learn about entrepreneurship, and also contribute to your business in a meaningful way. Kids are kids first, and I highly, highly recommend making this fun, especially for younger kids. It can actually be really enjoyable for them to do things and allow it to be a little bit on their terms. Again, especially for younger kids, let them opt into it, let them determine when they want to work. Once they start making money, you'll see that they might be volunteering even more often than you might have expected. Now, speaking about making money, you do need to pay them a reasonable pay. Now, there are two sides to this coin, right? From a Department of Labor standpoint, they're not going to want you to underpay them. You do still need to make sure you're paying them a reasonable wage. You probably can't get away with paying them $2 an hour for something that you would pay someone else $15 an hour. So that's really important to know. You don't want to go too low. And also the reason you don't want to go too low is if you're doing that, you are essentially giving up an opportunity for those bigger tax shifts from the higher income tax bracket to lower. So from an IRS perspective, they are really more worried about you overpaying your child to get a bigger deduction. So again, it needs to be reasonable, not too low, but also not too high, something reasonable that you would pay somebody else to do that same job. And of course, it's important to make sure you have all of your documentation, again, just like you would for any other employee, showing what they actually did and how much you paid them for the hours worked. This is where things like timesheets and job descriptions can be your best friend. And you need to pay them properly. Yes, that means likely through a payroll platform and issuing them a W-2. You don't want to just be giving them cash and then deducting it on your business because you're not going to have that proper documentation in the case that you are ever audited. Now, a quick side here, and I'm not going to go too far into the details because it can get a little bit weedy. However, if you are a sole proprietor, the great thing is you can pay your children tax-free. So that means if you 100% own a sole proprietorship, you can pay your kids with there being no income tax if it's under the standard deduction, and also with no payroll taxes. That means Social Security and Medicare. Again, kids working for a sole proprietorship that is entirely owned by one or both parents can be exempt from those payroll tax requirements. So that is a big savings. That's about 15.3%. So that is really critical. Now, if you are an S-Corp or a C corporation, or maybe you're a partnership that's owned by not just the parents of the kids, but other people as well, then it can get a little bit tougher for you. There's additional steps to take in order to be able to get the biggest tax benefit and be exempt from payroll taxes. And in those cases, that is setting up a family management company. I talk a heck of a lot more about that and what that exactly looks like in my upcoming masterclass. It's called the Hiring Your Kids 101 Masterclass. You definitely want to be there. If you're interested in signing up, it's totally free, jamietrull.com/masterclass. So make sure to go and check it out. Now we've talked about how to do it right. Let's talk about some of those common mistakes that happen. Mistake number one is paying your kids without documentation. I talked about this, but you're going to want to document their working hours. That's really important in case you're ever audited. Children on payroll is going to be one of the things that they would want to dig into to make sure that they truly were working for the business. So you need to keep records, again, just like you would any other employee. And if you actually have them on a payroll system and are issuing them a W-2, that is going to help prove to the IRS that yes, they are actually doing this work. I am treating them just like I would any other employee, and therefore it's going to help substantiate the earnings that you paid to them. Now, similarly, mistake number two is overpaying them for simple tasks. So for example, if you are paying your 8-year-old $500 just to sweep out your office, that's probably not going to be seen as reasonable in the eyes of the IRS. Now, the third mistake is hiring your child through the wrong entity. So again, if you're an S corporation, a C corporation, and you're hiring your kid, you're probably not getting the best benefits that you could if you did it a little bit of a different way. So if you want to get the best tax benefits, you might need to do something like set up a family management company, which, like I said, I'm going to be going over in more detail in my masterclass coming up. Now, mistake number 4 is waiting too long to hire your kids. I have seen this happen before where people might actually have their kids doing work in their business, but they're either not officially paying them or they're just giving them cash now and again and aren't actually recording that anywhere. And in that case, you're missing out on a big opportunity, again, to really legitimize it and get that tax benefit for your business, but also to make them a little bit more of an official part of your business. And I also see parents waiting until their kids are much older to hire them because they didn't realize they could hire them at an even younger age. Federally, you can hire your kid at pretty much any age. And that is because there are exceptions to the FLSA law that is all about governing child labor laws. Now, that doesn't mean that you can have them work tons and tons of hours or during school hours. However, there are exemptions available for businesses that are wholly owned by the parents. So don't wait. The earlier you get started, the better this can be, especially when it comes to my bonus tip, which is coming up here just in a minute. And mistake number 5 is assuming that this is some suspect loophole that you don't want to take advantage of because you're afraid you're going to get in trouble for it. This is something that is very standard. Lots of businesses do this. There is IRS guidance specifically talking about this. There are Department of Labor guidance out there. So again, just familiarize yourself with the rules and you should be in good shape. Like I said, you're going to want to look at the IRS rules, the Department of Labor rules, and potentially also your state Department of Labor rules because they might differ a little bit in terms of what they allow. So the bottom line is, if you do it smart, if you do it legally, it is a win-win for you and your kiddo. But now that your child is earning money, what should they do with it? And this is where that shift to a generational wealth mindset is really important. So instead of letting them blow it all on Roblox and claw machine games, I have been there. There are some things that you can do that are really productive and will help their future. So the best thing that you can do with that money is to open a Roth IRA. You have to have earned income in order to be able to contribute to a Roth IRA, and a Roth IRA is going to grow its earnings tax free. So the best thing about a Roth IRA is the earlier you start, the more time it will have to compound. I actually did a video on this specifically not too long ago where I showed you how just contributing a few $1,000s a year to your child's Roth IRA when they are young can lead to over $5 million in their Roth by the time that they retire, even if they never contribute another penny past their 18th birthday. So definitely check out that video next if you're interested in this insanely amazing strategy. And the great thing is too that once they're earning an income, it's a great time to start teaching them about saving, investing, giving, all of those really important things that we can do with our money, and teaching those lessons at a very early age. And that means you're not just helping them now, but you're helping set that financial foundation that a lot of adults don't even have. So all that is to say that yes, you really can have your kids work in your business, get a tax benefit from it, and also help them financially into the future. And you can do it all legally and ethically. Like I said, I'm going to break this down even further. If you really want to understand how to do this in a more step-by-step way, definitely check out my masterclass that is coming up. It's the Paying Your Child 101 masterclass. Go to jamietrull.com/masterclass to save your seat. And if you're already paying your kids or you're thinking about it, make sure to drop a comment down below or ask a question and I will respond. Thanks so much and make sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you soon.